Welcome to the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where you will learn top strategies from world-class real estate investors, both large and small. Why not? Tune in and get started today.
I talked to her about her dad. I looked around the house and saw photo albums. We went through, saw that. She's showing. We did not talk about the house until like the final 20 minutes, and I was like, all right, I got to get out of here. You mind if I look around and take some pictures? So we did that. It was a really good rapport. And as I'm leaving, one of the neighbors comes over, and I'll never forget this. This is what clicked for me. One of the neighbors comes over, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to sell your house yet?" He didn't say hi. He didn't say, "Hey, how's your dad doing?" He didn't say any of those things. I ignored it. I turned around. I gave her a hug. It's almost if I knew her for years, right? I gave her a hug, and then I walked back to my car, and I left. About 2 hours later, V calls me, and she's like, "Cameron, I don't know what the heck happened, what you did, but she only wants to sell this house to you." And from there, it clicked, and I was like, oh, hold on, this is a people business. Yes, I am purchasing the real estate, but she did not want to sell that home. She had to sell that home, And sometimes we get caught up in okay, these people are distressed, let's go after them. Sometimes it's like, these people are distressed, let's help them. Every real estate event or real estate conference, one of the first things they start with is mindset. That's one of the first things they start with, because you can do all this stuff. You can, you can want to do all this stuff, right? You can talk about hey, I'm going to, after work, I just woke up at 5 a.m., but I'm going to drive around and I'm going to drop 100 sticky notes off every week. Yeah. Or I'm going to cold call, 200 people every once a week. I'm going to work on my business and my lead funnel. We could say all these things because they sound good, right? But the proof is in the pudding at the end of the day. All this stuff is super simple. It's in hindsight, you want to be a millionaire? If you made 500 calls a week, consistently for a year, you probably have more deals than you know what to do with. Yeah. You know what I mean? But are you really going to do that? Are you really going to be consistent? And that's one big takeaway I want to, forget the probate, forget the wholesaling. It's the mindset that is big in this space. You have to really put the work in.
Hey, what's up, all of my real estate peeps? This is Brian Lucier with another episode of the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where we interview from beginner to billionaires, where we feel investing in multifamily rentals and that type of asset class in real estate is one of the best asset classes in real estate. However, on several of the shows, I've been taught a new trick, and my perspective is broadening. My spectrum is getting wider with every show. I learn something from every show, and I hope today you're going to learn something from this show. The gentleman that we have on our show today is a first-time topic for us here on the show. I've been running into him. Actually, when I checked my texts, I've been talking to this guy for the past couple of years, and I want to introduce him to you today. So our guest today is a probate specialist, entrepreneur, and real estate investor that specializes in probate and estates. He helps families with the reactionary side of probate process as an investor, while also referring access and guidance for preventative strategies such as wills, trusts, proxies, and other solutions for probate. Simply put, our guest handles the entire process involved during estate preservations, cleanups and cleanouts, landscaping on the property end of the spectrum, while at the same time offering sage advice and guidance, offering mobile notarization of documents, that's huge, certified mediator services, and estate liquidation performance. With over 20 deals done in the last 2 years, that's moving at rocket speed. With laser focus on probate, he's shifted his game to level up to doing real estate full time. Our guest today chose probate because he loves to help people and families navigate the uncharted waters of probate estates and to help people solve probate problems. Ladies and gentlemen, all of my real estate peeps, rock stars, investors, and entrepreneurs, it is my pleasure to introduce to you onto the show today probate specialist, entrepreneur, real estate investor, the Prince of Probate, the founder of Fundamental Estate Services, Cam the Probate Man, Mr. Cameron Adesanya. Cam, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That introduction was a chef kiss. That was great. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you for having me on. I mean, just to kind of hop right into it, I feel probate specifically is a conversation every real estate investor should have. I mean, if you're investing into just a few units, if you're just investing into, hundreds of units, it's one of those conversations to where, probate is. So first and foremost, let me hop back. Probate is the act of a court authenticating a will or transferring the assets from a dead person, which is the decedent, to the next in line, the heirs or beneficiaries. So if you don't have a plan in place, the court will have a plan in place for you. Okay. So probate is just a process from transferring, one person's assets to the next in line. That's really all it is. So you want to protect your assets that you spent, years building, the portfolio, even businesses, even cars. You know what I mean? Anything that's an asset, you want to avoid having it go through the probate process. Okay. Um, Now I say all that to say, okay, so how I got into it, I was just a real estate investor, solely focused on doing assignments, just doing what's called wholesaling in our industry, right? I came across a deal to where there were two little girls. Their parents died 6 months between each other because of COVID. My stepmom actually sent me the lead and asked me to navigate. I'm like, I don't know how to handle this, so I went to an attorney. This attorney changed not only my perspective, but my outlook on business, on how to properly help people through the probate process as an investor. Now, just being an investor, I was solely focused on one thing, which is the money, right? Well, probate is one of those things, like, it doesn't matter what you look like, what you sound like, you know, you have to understand what's going on. And all that basically got me into, probate, just trying to help people through that part of the process.
Cam, that is a really great snapshot of where you are and how you kind of got there. But I'm going to even dig back a little bit deeper. You started this venture in probate as a real estate investor. What did you do?
Yes.
And could you tell us a little bit about what you used to do before becoming a real estate investor?
So just a kid driving trucks. I was working for Boston Sand and Gravel. I was just, I had my CDLA, just driving trucks for the union. And just even how I fell into wholesaling. So what wholesaling is, it's just assigning equitable contracts and to make money. So I would go to someone who wants to sell their house for, let's say, $100,000. I would put it under a purchase and sale agreement, right? I would take that purchase and sale agreement and go to an end buyer, let's say someone like yourself, Brian, or someone who's interested in that kind of asset class. I would go put it under purchase and sale for 100 grand. I would bring it to my end buyer, tell them, hey, I have a contract for $110,000, and then at closing, I would get paid the difference. Okay, so that was just kind of like the overview of what I'm doing, and I fell into that. Like, I was just sitting in my work truck. I fell into the wholesaling part of it. Um, I have a friend. She's a real estate agent. Her stepdad ended up actually teaching me, and At first, I was just solely focused on just wholesaling. I would, after work, I would drop bright pink sticky notes and just go around my neighborhood and just, listen to YouTube all day, YouTube University, I like to call it, and just listening to content to try to educate myself. I ended up getting my first deal. It wasn't probate. It was coincidentally, he was going through pre-foreclosure, and I ended up working with the agent, and she helped me to assign that. But that was my first real, like, okay, this is real. Okay, so I want to say about 6 months into it, I'm still, learning. I'm still in the process. I think I was telling you, my stepmom, she cooks for parties. We're Nigerian. So her kind of being like the matriarch in our like community, people go to her with their problems sometimes, just like general life problems. And there were two little girls that, like I said, their parents died, and they went to her just for like, hey, we don't want to be at the house ourselves. We're waiting for our uncle to come and take us back to New York to live with him, while they figure all this stuff out. And they stayed at my parents' house for like a month. But my stepmom, she's like, well, what are you guys doing with the property? The little girls were like, we don't know. They don't know what to do. Their one was like 18, the other one was like 14. So, they're really little kids. So my stepmom reaching out to me, just knowing I do real estate, and that's kind of like another part of it. Tell everyone what you do, right? She reaches out to me. She's like, they need to. I want you to help them keep the house. I'm like, Ma, I don't help people keep houses. I sell houses, right? So I reach out to my title and just because it's my stepmom, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try, right? So I reach out to my title and escrow attorney, Krista Emerson. Krista, what should I do in this situation? She's like, Cameron, they have to go through what's called probate. She introduces me to Veronica White. Okay. Now, Veronica teaches me and shows me how to properly go about the situation, right? And since they didn't keep up with like the payments and stuff like that, it was starting to slide into pre-foreclosure. Long story short, I ended up assigning that deal, but it felt good to actually, because I did give him some money out of my assignment. So what felt really good was, one, I helped somebody, two, I made some money. And I was like, oh, hold on, this is actually pretty cool. I got to solve a problem and I helped somebody. All right. But the attorney also seen that, like, you know, I went about it in like, a humanly way, I like to call it, like, especially being in this investor space, sometimes, they pay attention to the money a lot more than the people, right? So the attorney took notice to that, and she's like, okay, well, I want you to start, like, she was going to teach me how to properly do probate. So she sent me my first deal. And this deal, it was a lady, her dad had dementia. In order to like, pay for the home and stuff like that he was gonna have to eventually go to, they had to liquidate the property. So V calls me and she's like, Cameron, I just want you to go over there and just talk to them, see what they need. I go over there, Brian, I'm there for 2 hours. Okay. The entire time, I want to say for an hour and probably like 40 minutes, I did not, like, I talked to her about her dad. I looked around the house and saw, like, photo albums. We went through, saw that. She's showing, we did not talk about the house until like the final 20 minutes. And I was like, all right, I got to get out of here. You mind if I look around and take some pictures? So we did that. It was a really good rapport. And as I'm leaving, one of the neighbors comes over, and I'll never forget this. This is what like clicked for me. One of the neighbors comes over, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to sell your house yet?" He didn't say hi. He didn't say, "Hey, how's your dad doing?" He didn't say any of those things. I didn't. I ignored it. I turned around. I gave her a hug. It's almost if I knew her for years, right? I gave her a hug, and then I walked back to my car and I left. About 2 hours later, V calls me and she's like, Cameron, I don't know what the heck happened, what you did, but she only wants to sell this house to you. And from there it clicked, and I was like, oh, hold on, this is a people business. Like, yes, I am purchasing the real estate, but she did not want to sell that home. She had to sell that home, you know? And sometimes we get caught up in like, okay, these people are distressed, let's go after them. Sometimes it's like, these people are distressed, let's help them,
Yeah.
you know? And that's honestly what's got me a few of my deals, just that mentality alone. But that was kind of like, just like the first like actuality or like realization of like, okay, I'm gonna get into probate. You know, I like helping people, and like it's I like making money at the same time, right? But the helping people aspect, and I have stories for days, but it's great. Like I love that aspect.
So I'm dying to connect the dots here. All right. And for those of you listening to this on the podcast, not watching it on YouTube, Cam's in his car and he's behind his steering wheel. And I really want to connect the points. How did you go? I mean, you're driving a truck, right?
Mhm.
You had a whole path. You're licensed, you're in the union, you were on one set of trajectory. What was that moment, or what was that like instance where you thought, wait a minute, I'm switching gears here. I'm going to go in a completely different direction. I'm doing real estate. I mean, you mentioned you had a friend, uh, real estate investor. There, you had a friend who was a real estate agent introduce you to wholesaling. But like, what was that moment you say, wait a minute, I'm getting out of this truck and I'm going to go do real estate? I mean, it's
So let me backtrack a little bit, okay? So I was
sure.
sitting in my work truck one day, and I was just scrolling on TikTok, and wholesale real estate popped up. I was like, this has to be a scam. The guy on the screen said, "Hey, I own some land. Well, I put some land under contract that I didn't own, and I made $100,000." I was like, "This has to be fake." So I ignored it, but then it popped up two more times in a row, and I was like, maybe this is real." So I call a real estate agent I know, Kimberly Aponte, and I was like, "Kimbo, is this real?" She's like, "Yeah, I think you should go talk to my stepdad." So at one day after work, I went over and talked to her stepdad for about 6 hours, and I just was like this can't be this easy. He's like, "No, it's it's simple, but it's not easy. Like it's
Exactly.
simple to write 100 sticky notes, right? But it's hard to actually, after work, are you gonna drive around and drop off 50 sticky notes? Do you have it in you to do that after you just worked, 12 hours?" And I really had a realization on myself. After I got my fourth deal, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try my hand. I'm going to go all in. So I quit my union job and I did this full time. It wasn't an easy decision. It wasn't something that I just kind of, thought about it overnight and just was like, all right, I'm going to do it. Like it actually took me a few months. And this was at a point where, like, I mean, I don't have any kids or anything, but it's like I have to make a decision. Like, am I going to regret not trying to get into this, or am I just going to go full steam ahead? It definitely wasn't an easy decision. But after my fourth deal, I figured, hey, worst case scenario, I still have my CDL. Like, I still have my CDL to this day, but yeah, it was definitely worth burning the bridges, as they so call it. Uh, it did take me a while to even, so my first deal, it took me about 45 days. And that was because after work every day, I would have a certain amount of sticky notes. And every week I would have a target of 100 sticky notes. So I would drop them off every week. And after it was like third week, I actually got a call back, and that would end up being my first deal. My second deal, it took about like 3 months. It was like 3 months, and it took like a month after that to close. But I locked it up too high for a wholesale, but it was low enough to where if it was on the MLS, it was a steal. And I brought it back to Kim, and she so happened to have an end buyer because I put a retail house under contract to wholesale. But and what I was doing, I was just looking at YouTube and watching videos and uh anything I can find, I would sign, like wholesaling wise, Facebook, I would sign up and I would just try to, learn something, try to grasp something. I was watching a lot of Flip with Rick, Rick Ginn, him and his son, they do a lot of wholesaling, Max Maxwell, and just so many other people, especially like the Real Estate Rookie podcast. I would watch so much content. I was consuming between, an hour or two worth of content daily. So I want to say after my second deal, I met someone named Sonia Provost, and she introduced me to real estate, it, real estate networking. As crazy as it sounds, Brian, I did not know people networked.
Oh yeah.
Like I didn't know people got together and like to share ideas, share, deals. I thought that whole world was foreign to me. So she introduced me to real estate wholesaling. I ended up meeting networking. I ended up meeting Nick, which is one of my mentors, Andrew Freed, which is one of my mentors, Zach Gray, which is one of my mentors. I ended up meeting a few hard money guys. It just opened so many doors. And then after that, there was a point of me going to 2 to 3 networking events a week. Like every week, I would go to a minimum 2 networking events. Like I even downgraded my car just so I could, drive more. Um, and that was just kind of me, being introduced to everything.
Cam, you're bringing the gold here. I'm so glad I went back to hear the origin of the story and how it happened. The TikTok reel that you thought was make believe and couldn't happen, right? And
I literally, this was at PPP when everybody was doing that weird stuff. I was like, no, this is literally a scam.
yeah,
I was like, this has to be fake. And then I just called someone with the information and she's like, Cameron's real. Go talk to my stepdad.
so you said some other things that I really want to point out because any of our viewers or listeners who are watching Cam or listening to Cam today, you brought some real gold to the table here, and I want to make sure people didn't miss it. You said something brilliant. You said it was simple, but it wasn't easy. And that nails real estate in a heartbeat, right? It's a simple business model. You can figure it out. You find the deal, you do what you do, you dispose of the deal for wholesaling, right? It's a simple process, but it's hard work. And that's why people don't do the reps. And you did the reps, you put in the reps, what'd you call it? You burn the boats, right? You got your fourth deal and you said, I'm all in. I'm burning the boats. We're not going back to Greece. We're here, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
so simple, but not easy. Burning the boats. I mean, anyone who's listening to this, if you're on the fence and you think you want to do real estate, there has to be that moment where you're all in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on the peripheral, just dipping your toe, you'll get wet, but you're not going to get there, right?
And mentally, it's not going to work. So one thing that Kobe Bryant said, you have to make like there should be no plan B. You have to make plan A work. Your plan B should be another way to make your plan A work. Because if you have something else to fall back on, you're going to get in this zone where you get comfortable. One thing I also wanted to point out and like to kind of just go left with it, right? I noticed, and I mean, I know this a while ago, every real estate event or real estate like conference, one of the first things they start with is mindset. That's one of the first things they start with because you can do all this stuff. You can excuse me, you can want to do all this stuff, right? You can talk about like, hey, I'm going to after work. I just woke up at 5 a.m., but I'm gonna drive around and I'm gonna drop 100 sticky notes off every week.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna cold call, you know, uh 200 people every like once a week. I'm going to work on my business and my lead funnel. Like we could say all these things because they sound good, right? But the proof is in the pudding at the end of the day. All this stuff is super simple. Like it's in hindsight, you want to be a millionaire? If you made 500 calls a week, consistently for a year, you'll probably have more deals than you know what to do with. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But are you really going to do that? Are you really going to be consistent? And that's one big takeaway I want to forget the probate, forget the wholesaling. It's the mindset that is big in this space. You have to really put the work in. Sorry, I get a little passionate about that, but
No, no, no. I mean, passion is part of the secret sauce. I mean, you can have the plan, you can execute, but it's like I journal every day, right? And there are some days I don't feel like going to the gym, and I know those are the days I got to show up. So that day that I don't want to do 100 notes or I don't want to do the 50 calls, that's the day I'm going to lose that deal. And you take action, you get momentum, and then you get motivated. It's not, oh, I'll get motivated and then take action. That doesn't work. It's like when you give me fire, I'll give you wood. No, it doesn't work that way. You had some other really great
that's
stuff.
great. That's great.
You what did you call it? YouTube University. A lot of my guests
Mm-hmm.
Silverado University, where they'll listen to CDs and audiobooks as they drive their truck. And you said networking. And you know, I've been doing this so long, I forgot that there was a time I didn't know people networked. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the first time I walked into a landlord event, I was looking around like awestruck, feeling, wow, these people are all rock stars. They're they're
Yeah.
they're all landlords. They own properties and all this stuff. And I felt like tiny, so small. But anybody who's listening to this, you're hearing it, right? Cam thought it was a fake TikTok ad, and here he is, right? I mean, 2 years,
Oh man.
20 deals.
Oh man. Oh, listen, and not to brag, like I literally have just. Oh man, like I'm just so blessed right now. I have 3 deals under contract right now, and I stop celebrating until they get to the finish line. Let me
Yep.
tell you. But yeah, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing.
So, I
It's,
mean,
it's
those of you
just
anyone who's watching this on YouTube, in the green room as we were getting set up for the episode, Cam was telling me, it's like, yeah, I'm sorry I'm in my car because I just had to come out and look at a deal. It's like, don't apologize. You're in your element. You're doing what you do. I mean, anybody who's watching this, Cam's doing it, right? He's there. He's not talking about doing it. He's like, okay, well, I'll fit this in because what I have to do is important. You're dealing with someone, their house, their probate, their real problems, their real family issues, and you're there. So I got to thank you for taking the time out of helping all these people to help everybody else who might be watching this show. So
big, big.
2 years, 20 deals. That's when you like rubber hit the road and got active. How long have you been told?
So I don't want to say that. I want to say it was a little slow at first, and then once the shift to probate started really happened, and I really niched down, then I started not to skip ahead, but yes, I had that one attorney I'd work with, but I also started working with other attorneys. And that in turn, yes, I do a lot of prospecting. I have a lead funnel where I send, mailers, cold call, I do that thing. But a lot of my bread and butter as well has been attorneys. Like a lot of the attorneys will come to me like, hey, Cam, I got a house. I need you to either clean it out or or clean it out and find an end buyer for me. You know what I mean? That's mostly what I'm doing now. Like the deal I just came from, that's a probate deal, yes, but that's the attorney reaching out like, hey, this guy, he has 2 3 deckers. He's trying to liquidate his estate. Do you want to buy them? You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Just from being so niched into the space, now attorneys are like, oh, I've heard about you. Could you help me with
Uh,
this? So it's been that's I haven't really, spilled the beans on that too much, but
well,
yeah. So I now I'm at a stage to where yes, I do prospect the personal representatives, but I work a lot with attorneys. Now I'm just basically like their legs. If they need notarization of documents, if they need, their clients need a clean out or some type of hand holding, that's kind of my forte.
So you just nailed another golden spike here. The key of branding is to be synonymous with that thing, right? If I say toothpaste, you're either going to say Crest or Colgate, right?
Exactly.
So if somebody says probate, they're going to say, oh, Cam.
Yep.
That's it.
Absolutely. So I always like to tell people, like, imagine if you're the only guy that knows how to make tacos, right?
Oh, yeah.
After a while, it's like, I want some tacos. Oh yeah, Cam knows how to make tacos. He's the only restaurant in town, I want to say. Yeah, you might not need tacos sometimes, but everybody loves tacos, right? Um,
Well,
that's just kind of the idea behind it. I just always thought of it that way as well. So
well, in life, we're all going to need that taco eventually.
absolutely. And again, not to sound like, the squeaky wheel, but as real estate investors or people getting into real estate or just, first time home buyers, probate is a conversation everybody needs to have. Now, to get into the numbers behind it, okay? Um, just being in this space for a while, you hear things, you hear, certain like there's something coming called the silver tsunami, okay? And that is because the class of baby boomers, they didn't estate plan as well as some would hope. Like, I know a few investors, they've been in it for 20, 30 years, and they don't have estate plans. So they said in the next 10 years, 7 out of 10 people that own a home is going to go through probate. Okay. So now I don't care what side of the fence you're on, if you're left or right, they just cut 14 million people's health care. Okay. Now, the reality of things is people die, right? What do you think is about to happen next? They're calling it one of the greatest wealth transfers in American history.
Wow.
That's what's about to approach. And this is all factual stuff. You can look this up. This is all numbers that just from me constantly going to, senior events, senior homes, dealing with estate planning attorneys. I deal with an abundance of probate and estate planning attorneys. And, they speak about this as well. It's called the silver tsunami. So I just like to tell people the information, please, even if, you're not gonna get into probate, you don't want to do probate. Please, if you own an asset, I think over in Massachusetts, it's over like 100 grand. Get a living trust. It's either you deal with it now or you deal with it later. Probate. I mean, it gets really ugly. Like I was actually going to start a channel with some of the people that I do probate with, and actually, I want to get into this with you as well. We're going to call it probate horror stories, and it's just going to be a bunch of like a mix between like true crime and real estate. People love true crime, and if you had like a little real estate flair into it, like I had one deal where the lady killed her 4 kids and stuffed them in a freezer. I
Oh,
cold called the sister, and somehow I have to sell these 2 condos you know, or I mean, to kind of tone it down a little bit, but I had two sets of siblings, a boy and a girl on this side, a boy and a girl on this side. They're each getting 40 grand from their inheritance, but they want to argue about $1,000 car that's sitting on jack stands in the middle of the driveway. It's like you guys are about to spend like half your inheritance. They're getting 40 grand. So by the end time probate's done, they actually all got 32. So they all spent 8 grand just arguing about $1,000 car. And I can just go on and on. So it's like, you know, and it's always like, hey, well, mom said I can keep this. Well, mom's not here to like, say, no, I didn't say that, you know? So it's a difficult conversation.
wow.
And okay, so when I first got into probate, and I have to shout out the people in my probate mastermind. So I first got into probate, obviously I wanted more information on how to speak to people, the terms, and just understanding the process. So I came across a group named Probate Master. Okay. And it's just a certification course to where like it's a smaller community. They're just all real estate agents and investors, all probate focused. Okay. Everybody's focused on probate and estates. And the difference between probate and estates, estate planning is the preventative, so like before you die. Probate is after, it's the reactive. Okay. So probate mastery is just a group, and we get together like once a week and they just talk everything probate. And that was just like kind of the foundation of me learning a lot of the terms, how to properly approach things, like the process, understanding, and so on and so forth. But then over time, I slowly started meeting, people who do what I do, but just all over the country. So I ended up coming across this lady, Melanie, the probate nurse. She's out of Tampa, Florida. Someone named David Pinnell, he's in Fort Worth, Texas. Miriam Cruz, she's in San Francisco. Courtney Rollins, he's in Raleigh, North Carolina, and so on and so forth. But I'm seeing these people like they've been in this space for like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
Wow.
And now I'm starting to like get, like the superheroes, like, oh wow, like, one lady like the Miriam, the court calls her because they know she's so invested, or she's so good in the probate process as a real estate agent. They call her and they'll be like, hey, we have 6 listings we need you to list.
Oh, wow.
Or just like Courtney, he's the guy for probate in Raleigh, so like attorneys call him. Or Dave, it's just, and I slowly fell into it. Now we have our own mastermind. Like every Sunday we get together and we talk about like, probate, how do we push ourselves forward, and the things we're working on. And then my guy Reem is a freaking genius. This guy, he's in Minnesota, and he runs a YouTube channel, and it's all probate attorneys. And this guy is absolutely like, he's who, like, if I have a probate problem, and every state is different, but he'll be able to like understand the information or find it for me. He's great. So I end up coming across just like a group, like a mastermind of people that do the same thing I do, just all over the nation. And that really changed my business.
Cam, you're crushing it on the mindset because you're expanding out. And I'm meeting you for the first time. Well, we've met, but now I'm hearing the story for the first time. And yeah, okay, I'm looking at you as this guy's an expert, and now you're pulling back the curtain on your superhero probate experts. It's like this is networking on steroids in a specific niche. And if anyone can take anything away from it, I don't care if your thing is networking, multifamily probate, multifamily storage, whatever it is. If you focus laser like that and then get up to the next level where you find your rock stars, that's rocket fuel. So I got to ask you this question here. In your bio and what I saw, it says 2 years, but what was the full span of time from that TikTok video or whatever that starting point was up till today? How many years have you been on this road?
Since that TikTok, 2.5 years. Like I didn't after the TikTok, probably like, I talked to Kim, and that was probably like a 2-month period. And then I was like, all right, let's start doing it. So yeah, probably like 2.5 years since that video. Like since probate, yeah, probably like a little less than 2 years.
Okay,
So like, yeah, I'm still, like I said, I've been super blessed. I've met a lot of great attorneys who have helped me. I've had a lot of great mentors. That's one thing I do highly recommend. You have to get around mentors, people like yourself that that do the work, that actually can show you like, hey, this is what I own, or, are willing to give you the information. You know what I mean? Because like you can't do this thing alone. Like a lot of us think like, okay, yeah, like yeah, YouTube has only done so much for me. It's done a lot, but I needed to get around people in the space that are actually doing it and that give me that energy. You know what I mean? You have to stay around the energy. You have to stay around the mindset. I feel like everything happens for a reason. And one of the first people I met in this space is Nick Allerroot.
yeah.
Like, like Nick.
Oh yeah.
He's one of the first people I met in this space. So how lucky was I? You know, one of the second people I meet in this space, Andrew Freed.
Yep.
You know, guy owns over 300 units. Like, you have to get in the space, and I recommend just talking to everybody. See how you can add value. Like, one of the first things, Brian, how could I help you? Don't ask what Brian could do for you.
Yeah.
Yes, Brian can change your life, but what could you do for Brian that wants to keep Brian to call you and be like, hey, Cam, I might have a deal. I want you to do this for me. It's because I'm constantly bringing value to Brian. Like that's what I want people to take away. You have to bring value before you get value.
So the 2.5 years, I'm going to loop back here. This part of the show I always enjoy, and you're already answering a lot of the question I'm about to ask you
I'm
right
sorry if I'm, I
now. No,
just
no. This is your show. You don't apologize for a second because this is your story, not my story. However you want it to go, right? I'm just gonna like throw some stuff out there and then we'll go down that rabbit hole. Wherever you want to take me is fine. So 2.5 years. This question's got two parts to it. If you could go back and tap Cam on the shoulder 2.5 years ago, and I'm blown away because the mindset you've achieved in 2.5 years, some investors never get there. Believe it or not, right? So if you could go back in time, tap yourself on the shoulder, what advice would you give to yourself starting over? And then with the experience that you already have, the mindset you already have, if there was an investor or somebody looking, maybe I want to do real estate, or they're looking at this, at that, as that fake TikTok video, what advice would you give to the newbie? So let's start with you. Let's go back where you can tap yourself on the shoulder. What advice would you have given yourself starting over?
I would say, well, two pieces of advice. Build your system and be consistent in building your system. Because, you can get all these leads, right? But if you're not following up or don't have some type of system to follow up, you're going to lose a lot of you're going to lose a lot of leads because the dollars are in the follow up. You can do all this prospecting, all this cold calling, but if you're not following up, you're going to miss out on deals. Okay. So even just myself in the probate space, there's been times where, I've reached out to a first set of people, and then, a couple months later, I reached out again. And there was one lady specifically, I'll never forget. We had a great rapport, and she was like, oh my goodness, I'm so upset. We already sold the house. You did not call us. I waited too long to call her because I didn't have some sort of like, follow-up system to say like, hey, Cam, 3 months from now, instead of 5 months from now, you should call this lady. And I just so happened to call because I was looking through my book and I was like, oh, let me just, see if I can find any low hanging fruit. But definitely you need to have some sort of system where you can follow up on leads. That is like, number one. Number two, be consistent. Just you have to be consistent. You can't say like, you know, I'm or yes, be consistent, but also like how do I explain it? Like so every Monday from 2 to 7, Monday and Tuesday, I time block and I cold call on those days. Okay. No matter what, those are my days to time block and cold call. Don't okay, Monday I'm going to do this. Monday comes and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to do this. And then the next week you're not consistent. No, you need to be consistent every week. That is what I do. Every week, no matter what I have to do, I'm going to cold call from 2 to 7. Those are my times to cold call just so I'm like, you know, and I always have my list and everything ready. So, just being consistent and time blocking as well. That helps a lot. But being consistent and as well as having a system.
And then, like you said, the dollars are in the follow up.
The dollars are in the follow. I'll never forget too. That lady, she was so nice. She was like, "Oh my God, I'm so mad at you." Because like when I talked to her, I gave her the spiel. Like, listen, yes, I'm a real estate investor. I just try to help what people need help with first. How far along are you into the probate process? She was like, "Oh, you're the first person to ask what I needed help with." We just had a good rapport, and she was like, "You know what? Call me and see if I got my papers, like her personal representative papers." I called. She's like, "Oh, I got my papers. Now we're just waiting on right to sell." I went. I looked at the property and everything. I was like, "All right, I'm gonna call in like 3 months because that's generally like how much long it takes." I totally spaced it because I didn't. I was writing everything down. And freaking, I called her 5 months later. She's like, "Oh my God, we sold it." It was in Arlington.
Oh God.
Yeah, like
Yeah. For
Arlington.
those
I
of
was
you who
like,
don't know, Arlington is a high dollar value town.
yeah, it's like, so yeah, you have to be consistent. You have to make a system. Don't just, I mean, yeah, I guess at first you do need to, if you don't have a CRM, yes, write those things down. But no, you definitely need some type of system to where it's like, okay,
So
next month on the 3rd, I'm going to call, at this time and these people, and this is what I'm going to say to them so you don't forget, you know? Uh,
so you mentioned CRM. What are you using?
So I use Wicked Busy with Mark Dazios. It's like a branch of Go High Level, I want to say. And he does everything for me. Like it hosts my website, sends an email drip campaign because I just got into that as well.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I'm building that aspect because I really wasn't focused on that. Like I just was focused on the deal part of everything, but now I have like a pretty decent sized audience to where even the attorneys I'm dealing with, I want to be able to send them some sort of newsletter just saying like, "Hey, this is what I'm doing." So yeah, I'm still building that aspect. It's funny because people are usually building that part first, right? The email drip campaign, but I'm building it now, and yeah, it's interesting.
So really good stuff. And again, I got to tell you, Cam, I'm amazed that you're where you are now in 2.5 years. Because my journey, my first two and a
Oh,
half
thanks.
years, I was making mistakes left and right as a landlord, doing all kinds of stuff that I look back now and I cringe. So for you to be where you are in 2.5 years, you've blown by my trajectory for my 2.5 years, which leads me now to the newbie, right? So
What's up?
you've given yourself some really good advice if you could have gone back in time. What advice would you give to that newbie who's thinking about real estate today?
Educate yourself. Like that, you need the information because if you don't know how to spot a deal, then how are you going to get a deal? You know what I mean? You need to educate yourself. You need to, know even what ARV stands for. That's the information. You need to know how to run your numbers. Why are, investors only looking to pay between, 65 and 70 to 75% of the deal? Why? Why are those things happening? Understanding like, what market that you want to be in. Because sometimes, I don't necessarily look for things in Boston. There's no real value add there. You have to understand the information or educate yourself how to spot deals. You might find, like I found a deal, well, an attorney sent it to me, but she sent me a deal in Boston. It was a 3 family for 600,000. I'm like, something got to be wrong with it, right? It was burnt, fire damage. But it's just, knowing these things, knowing your information. Um, and also learning how to source your own deals. Like, and I understand like everybody's always looking to make a quick buck. So sometimes they're trying to daisy chain deals. No, dude, you need to learn how to make the cold call, send the mail, door knock, to put I would like to say like own the paper. Like you need to be in control of the paper so you can make money. Like that's one thing I do pride myself on. Like I try to make sure that I'm in control of the deal. I don't daisy chain people's deals. You know what I mean? If someone comes to me with a deal and, it's like one of my attorneys or one of my agents, then that's fine. But I'm not about to, and a wholesaler comes to me with a deal and I'm trying to wholesale his wholesale. Guys, stop that. Um, investors don't like it. It adds too much. It complicates too much. So, just learn how to source your own deals.
So your advice to the newbie is to educate yourself.
Yep.
So I'm a newbie. Somebody tells me educate myself. Well, how do I do that? Where do I go? How do I educate myself? So
So,
throw out a few gems for the newbie there. Where can
so
we
three
get?
three ways to educate yourself. First of all, pay for Brian's time. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm keeping it real because it's either you bring me deals or you either bring me some type of value. But I cannot sit here and give you, hours of my time and you not reciprocate. So like Andrew, we have to wake up at 7:30 every Sunday, and he's our mentor, mastermind. But there was a point where he made us pay $50 every meeting or bring him deals. That's just the way this cookie crumbles. Nobody's wasting their time because that's the whole reason we've been doing this is to free up our time, right? So first and foremost, get a mentor. That's number one. Find a mentor, whether you gotta, pay for a mentor or bring him deals. Find a mentor. Number two, um, network, educate yourself, go to seminars. I'm going to round that up into go to seminars and network. You need to be around other people doing the work, right? When you go to networking events, don't go to networking events to get drunk and just sit in the corner. Go to networking events to talk to at least 10 people, minimum. I would talk to everybody in the room and I would at least get a card or at least give them my card, okay? So get a mentor, network, go to seminars. And number three, read a book or listen to a podcast. The Bigger Pockets, they have an abundance of books that you can read from how to estimate rehab costs to, how to partner with people to even just like how to talk to sellers, like, what type of scripts to use. I want to get into that as well too. But those three ways how to educate yourself will shift your business dramatically. Like there should be no reason why the only thing you're trying to do is just cold call and just try to get deals. I understand you might need money, you might be stuck in a scarcity mindset, right? But it's not going to happen if you don't know how to, one, speak to people, if you don't know how to put the deal under contract, and if you don't know, just the general scope of business. Like if I go into a property, like, my roof and my foundation are my most like instrumental, well, the septic too. But those are like my number one things. You have to be able to understand how to look at that. You need that education. So you got to read something, guys.
Really, really good stuff. And
Not to sound all mean, but
oh no, I
you got
mean,
to read a book.
no foul here at all. I mean, I'm in my office right now, but if you see some of the other podcasts, I'm sitting in front of my bookshelves, and I've got books over there. I always travel with books. I love it when I come back to the States because I can't get most of the books that I want to read where I live. I'll leave that alone because this is about you. You did mention the script. Um, I'll ask the question, but I don't want you to give away your secret sauce. What is it about a script that a newbie needs to know? And if you want to keep it
So
general, I mean, don't give away
I'll
your
give you
business.
I'll give you some of my sauce. So first and foremost about a script, like when you're first beginning, and a lot of people don't like scripts because you feel kind of constricted or confined, but you need like a basis to like or a guiding point to know what to say. So if you're like lost or something said by the seller that you're like, whoa, you could at least look and try to reel it back into a place where you feel comfortable, if that makes sense. So like you want to be in control of the conversation as much as possible. So, like myself, um, I don't like to have them ask me questions. I like to ask them questions. So when I'm on, like, well, when I had a script, I would always try to ask them some type of question after even like, and even if they did answer, ask me a question and I answered, I would like to answer, have a question ready for right after I finish that, like what I said. Because whoever's asking the questions is in control of the conversation. You want to be able to, you know, The whole point of talking to a seller is to get the house. Let's just keep it real estate, not even probate. The whole point of talking to a seller is to get the house. You need to be able to guide them in a way to where whatever their motivation is to sell the house, they can answer those questions. So if you're sitting there talking about yourself the whole time, how are you going to talk about the house?
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like if they're asking you like, so who are you? What are you doing? You have to, yes, you need credibility or, a way to answer those questions, but it should be more about them than you.
Yeah.
Because I always tell people that, I've, talked to in this space, no one gives a heck about you. It's not about you. It's about their problem, their situation. Even with probate, I like to say it's not about me. It's about what happened to them and how could I help them through their situation to where, yeah, they might want to sell me the real estate. That is the base of the whole thing. How am I going to help them to the point where they're like, you know what? Cam helped us so much, give him the house. Or, let Cam liquidate the house. Let Cam solve my problem. That is the base of this whole thing. You are trying to solve somebody's problem. So it should never be like, well, I sold over 300 homes. I've done this. I've done that. No one cares. They want to know, are you going to help them through their problem or not? Do you think if I said I sold over 300 homes when someone's family member just died, they're going to be like, yeah, I definitely want to deal with you? Like, they don't care. They're like, why are you calling me right now at literally the worst transitional point of my life? That's all.
Mic drop. Absolutely. Yeah. And what you said,
Yeah,
whoever's asking the questions controls the conversation. I think it
Socrates.
was it Socrates? I was going to say Robert Stanley, Millionaire Next Door. Totally wrong.
I have to.
Yeah, and I don't care if I'm wrong. But yeah, you're 100% right, because when I would be training my leasing team, somebody wants to rent an apartment, they got question after question after question after question, and I taught my team to get control back by asking them back the question. So you're 100% right on that. So that's pretty good, really good for the newbie. Any other last words you'd give to that newbie who would be starting out today?
Have fun with it. Just have some fun. If you really want to do this or be in this space, you have to have some type of fun with it. I love meeting people. I love educating people, and I love making money. That's what kind of keeps me going. And you do have to know your why and your goals behind this. So what I will say is, like, you need to know your why. Why are you doing this? Why did I just quit my union job to do this full time? Like, I think I could have, probably got a little comfortable doing that and just, did that my whole life. No, I wanted the financial freedom, so I took the risk to, do it in a short amount of time. So, figure out your why and go from there. And then write down your goals. Once you figure out your why, after you really envision yourself and what you really want to do, write down your goals. Write down your three biggest goals and go from there.
Yeah. One last comment on the scripting, and then we'll jump into the next series of questions here. This show is scripted. I always ask the exact same questions, and I always get a totally different episode because everybody has different answers. So, yeah, there is some value in the script there. All right.
Oh, there's a lot of value because sometimes you just find yourself like way in left field and you look at the script and you're like, oh, snap, I need to ask them this question, this question, this question. So if these questions don't get answered, then, it's going to make my time trying to navigate the deal harder. Like, I have to know, like, who, if there anybody contesting, that is big alone. Like, who's contesting, if any, because that might drag the probate process. Is there anybody that are making any decisions besides you? I got to know who's are the decision makers. How far along are you into the probate process? I got to know these things because they might just get their personal representative papers, but they still have to file for their license to sell, which is going to take some more time. Or they could just tell me like, oh yeah, we just got our license to sell. Well, that means you guys can sell the property like today. So that helps me to know these things so I can be like, all right, well, would you mind if I go down there and, check it out? Maybe I can, as opposed to like, oh, well, we don't have our personal representative papers yet. Well, there's no point in asking me to see the property yet, because then it sounds like I'm going to get commission breath. Because they're like, well, we can't even do anything with the property. Why would you want to see it? Like those little things that like, because if you don't literally own the property yet, you're not even allowed to really show anybody. I mean, some people don't care, but like it just you just get commission breathy if like, you just told me you can't do anything with the house. Why would I ask about the house? Well, at that point, I shifted to like, okay, well, let me see if there's anything else you need help with. Well, do you have an attorney right now? Do you need any type of litigator or any type of administrative attorney? I work with a great attorney that I can partner you up with. Actually, yeah. I would love to meet your attorney. All right. So in the meantime, I'll send you this little package. I send, the personal representatives and stuff like that. It's also on my website. So I'll send it to your email. I'll also connect you with my attorney. So I just provided them value twice. I just gave them a packet to where like if they're filing for probate, these are some of the things that they can do to kind of be proactive, whether it's creating a bank account for the estate or, uh, notifying the heirs or beneficiaries or just notifying the creditors. You have to put it in the newspaper, doing those like small things to like be proactive. As soon as I give them that advice and I give them the attorney, dude, I just gave them so much value.
Yeah.
Do you really think like I gave them that much value, they're gonna bring their deal somewhere else? They're gonna be like, Cam's already helped me. I have a gas station right now, Bri. I've never sold a gas station in my life. I got a gas station. Hopefully, I can sell. Well, I'm gonna sell it, but hopefully that this all goes through. But yeah, brother.
Well,
Probate.
that opens the door to the next series of questions. You're talking about a deal. And I want to be sensitive here because usually I'm talking to an investor who's looking for a deal, buying an opportunity. You're unique in that your deals come from somebody else's pain. So I'm going to ask this question and I want to be sensitive to that as well. Okay. So this
I
is the
appreciate
deal
it.
dive. Huh?
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, not a problem at all. I'm listening, right? I'm listening as you talk. So what's the best deal you ever did? What type of property was it? How did you find it? How did you finance it? So it's going to be unique to your situation.
Well, I'm gonna give you two deals because there's one deal I did last year that was like it was the best deal because of the way it changed my life because and the deal I just did recently was that age. So the first deal, it was in Danvers for Loris. Um, that was an attorney referral. So they went through probate. Well, they actually, yeah, they were going to go through probate. So husband and wife own house. Wife gives the rights to the husband to put in the family trust. Now, they don't think he put it into the family trust, but he dies and his like assets go to his nephew. Well, now the nephew wants to liquidate the house or liquidate the trust. They can't find the actual deed. So the person who had it before was a home investors guy. He couldn't find it. He never really navigated probate anyway. So he just gave up. The attorney comes to me like, Cam, if you find the deed, you got a home run. So I go to the person I know who does deeds, Kim Lit Winsage, and she finds this. He was looking for a couple months. It took me like 3 weeks, and I found it. So, well, she found it. She finds the deed, and so I got this house, and you know, absolute home run. Um, I got it for a great price, and I went to an end buyer who was doing this deal at this time. He was, if you bring the deal, he'll put up the funding and he'll also put up the work. And it was a 50-50 deal, right? I don't really want to tell who it is, but he does this
Okay.
50-50 deal thing, and I got 50% of the proceeds. And that was my best deal to date. But that basically put me in position to like, like really be out of survival mode, as I like to say. And that definitely changed everything because then I was able to put money in marketing and do this, do that. But this deal in Danvers, that was like the life changer. And then the last deal I did,
Got one more
same
question
thing.
on this
It's
one.
called a joint.
Hold that thought. What type of property was it?
So it was a single family. I want to say about 1,800 square feet. Um, yeah, just a single family flip. Just basically just a beat up house and value add kind of thing. Yeah, it was in Danvers.
Okay, that
So
helps.
that's usually what I target, between 1 to 4 units. Anything above, I go to like my mentor. But usually for myself, I go between 1 and 4 units. And yeah, I look for value add kind of properties. So that was that. And do you want me to tell you the next one or?
Well, I just want to recap real quick here. It was a deal that came to you through your professional relationships with your network that you built. It was funded also by relationships, someone you have in your network. Don't need
Yep.
to know who it was, don't want to know who it was, but they had a solution to funding it. And then the type of property was your bread and butter, single family home value add. So this investor came in, did what they need to do. They flipped it, sold it. Was the disposition? What did they do with the
Yep.
property?
So they put up the money and they also did the work, and we split the equity on the back end. So it's called a joint venture. Just basically, I brought the deal, he brought the cash and the work, and at the end I got paid, as opposed to a wholesale where it's like I'm assigning it and I get paid up front. So I didn't take the wholesale fee. I actually took the equity on the end, on the back
That was a sweet deal for you because,
end.
knowing it was a value add, it was probably a pretty heavy lift for the investor. They had to put in the cash, do the heavy lift, and then split 50-50 with you. And I'm not diminishing the work or value that you add. It sounds like the hardest part of that whole deal was finding the title.
Absolutely. And I don't want to say, yeah, well, I didn't do that. It's just who I know. I just reached out to my network. So everything in that deal, basically, I used my network from finding the deal, my network, um, reaching out to the attorney that actually, found the deed. That was my network. Reaching out to the investor who put up the money and did the work, my network, and then listing it, the agent in my network. So everything was just in my network. I just problem solved on who, not how.
And you added value to everyone along that process. Simple,
Absolutely.
but it was hard work. It was simple to do,
Yes,
but it was hard work. All right, give me the second deal.
absolutely. So again, and that's why I chose the second deal, because that was the referral from the Danvers deal. So the niece was just like, Cameron, you did such a good job and it was so effortless. She referred her grandmother to me, and now it's a deal in Lynn. I did the same thing. I went to Zach and Andrew this time, put it under contract, and we joint ventured that as well. So instead of taking the wholesale, I went to Zach and Andrew, and we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to value add the property. It's a single family in Lynn. And on the back end, I'm going to, get uh, money on the back end. But this time, I'm going to invest that money into a real estate syndication.
Nice. Welcome to my world.
Yeah, so I'm not taking any more money. Everything I do from now on, I'm just going to roll them over into syndications or some type of like unit. Buy some units.
You've discovered the holy grail of building wealth.
Yep, that's what's going on next. Because I've done it, quite a few wholesales and stuff, and yes, I've done a few things, but now it's time to take the money and put it into the units. Excuse me, the investments.
Yeah, you roll it up and level up at the same time. Beautiful. All right. And FYI, Nick, Andrew, Zach have all been on the show. You're in good company.
Oh, that's awesome.
You can tell, oh, yeah,
Thank you.
I'm on
Thank
the
you.
show
I'm
with you.
so,
You're all alumni, right?
yeah.
So, what's the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome as an investor, and how did you solve it?
Want to hear something crazy? It was the mindset. It was the imposter syndrome for a while. It was, you know, oh man, it was, and these things sound so simple. Like, what do you mean mindset? Like, just really understanding, like I can do this. Like, these things are possible. Like, and even in the midst of me doing some of these things, it's like, wow, like, am I really doing this? And is this stuff really working? Like, so even my first deal, I didn't cash my check until like 10 days later.
Hmm.
I was carrying around my check, just like, oh, this is real. I literally carry around checks. Like,
Okay, take that check off camera.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
So,
no,
like,
no, it's okay.
but like, just, you know, this stuff is still like new to me, like I'm just so blessed. I'm in a great space. And yeah, just for a while it was like, is this real? Like I was having imposter syndrome, and actually Nick helped me with it a lot. Nick helped me with a lot, but especially with that, he gave me the book, The Gap in the Game, but he also had me at my first speaking event. So he had me come speak at youth build. It's just like a area in my city, and he wanted me to come speak to a couple like troubled youth on just like my journey and my path, and that like really helped me, you know, just with the idea of like one giving back, but two being able to like articulate my journey and how far I've came because like just me being so blessed in the space, and actually I'll be able to talk about it now. I do a backpack giveaway in my neighborhood. I give over like last year I did out of my own pocket. I did 1,000 backpacks, just
Nice.
filled them up. I had a guy who comes, he does haircuts. We had a whole just thing, and that was sponsored off the idea of like the imposter syndrome, but it was just like, look how far I've came. Like it's so hard to articulate, but like what Nick has done for me mentally is like, it just does not, it can't be put into words. But yeah, I was dealing with imposter syndrome at first, and like just the mindset behind it. Like, damn, can I really do this? And yeah, that's also why I burned the boots. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. Um, you know, I read As a Man Thinketh, and that helped as well. So yeah, man, it was definitely the mindset.
That's a great segue. You've mentioned a couple really great books here. As a Man Thinketh and The Gap in the Game, which is Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And you said you were having a little trying to articulate it, right? So the gap is where I am now and where I see myself being. And that's kind of the imposter syndrome. It's like, oh no, I'm not worthy to do that syndication, which now you've come this far and you're going to do, right? And then the
Ooh.
gain is when you look backwards to sitting in that truck to the TikTok video saying this is fake.
Mm-hmm.
From that TikTok video to you actually being a stone's throw away from being an LP or a GP in a syndication, that is a huge, huge milestone, right? And people, me too, will beat ourselves up with the whole imposter syndrome. Oh no, I'm not worthy of this. And you retract back into, where your brain is, but you
Yep.
extended your mindset. You got past that gap, and you don't let the gap define you. The gain is what defines you, and that gives you the confidence and the push to move forward. So had to
That's a fire way to put it, B. I like that. That was a fire way to put it.
Well, and you inspired it by mentioning the book, The Gap and the Gain. And As a Man Thinketh, that is not on my bookshelf, but it needs to be. Because, when I get something out of every one of these shows. So thanks. Um, we're going to turn the page here. A little pun, dad joke, if you would. Is there a book that had the greatest impact on you as a real estate investor?
Oh, oh, yeah. Well, you said real estate investor. So I have to tell you a book that just had the greatest impact on me in general.
Yeah.
Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. I know you know who Napoleon Hill is. He has a book called Outwitting the Devil, and he wrote it, I think, in like 1930, but they didn't release it until 2011. Okay. His wife was scared for him to release it because of what he's talking about. But I think his grandkids or his nephew or something, they released it, and chef kiss. I referred it to Leo Casanelli, and he called me and was like, Cameron, I'm so happy that you told me to read this book. But for real estate investing, um,
Well, it doesn't have to be
I
real
mean, the
estate,
book
though.
on estimating rehab costs, that definitely helped me.
Jay
I read
Scott,
that a few times.
that would be Jay
What's
Scott.
up?
Right? Jay Scott.
Yeah, yeah. His books helped me quite a few times. And one book that did help me just kind of get into the mindset of like, okay, I'm a wholesaler, was the Wholesaling Bible. And I know it sounds super simple, but after reading that a few times, it just made the process of like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to do this. Like I would listen to that a lot, and I would go drop off sticky notes. And once I actually got my first deal, that like helped me with the mindset of like, okay, this is easy. This is easy. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Because sometimes you like you're in it or you're just starting to do it and it's like it's feeling overwhelming. And so like, you're done like your 10th time and you're like, oh, I'm just assigning paper. But when you're first starting it, it's like, oh my goodness, like this is actually harder than it is. But, yeah.
Right, mindset, right back at it. So you've given me As a Man Thinketh, Outwitting the Devil, Estimating Real Estate, the Wholesaling Bible. And as I listened back to the recording, there was a couple other books that you'd mentioned back at the beginning here. I'm looking at my notes. Yeah, I've got like 6 pages of notes so far, so I'll go through that later. I'm going to get greedy. Is there another book or a second book? I usually say, is there a second book you would recommend that had the biggest impact on you?
I mean, the gap in the game was great. Um, I'm trying to give you some good ones. Oh, 3 Feet from Gold. That was another, but it wasn't Napoleon Hill. It was by his like his fun thing. Three
What?
Feet from Gold.
What? I'm sorry,
Um,
I didn't get that one. What is it?
3 Feet from Gold.
Oh,
It's
Three
about
Feet
like
from
not
Gold.
giving up. So, like, long story short, there was this guy during the gold rush, the California gold rush with all the gold and stuff. These guys just got a bunch of equipment and they just decided to, dig for gold, right? And they had like a map, and in the map, they didn't know how to properly read it, but then they were just, digging for gold, digging for gold. So one of them they gave up, right? And they sold all their equipment to this junk guy. But this junk guy, he was one of those people to where he was constantly like educating himself. He knew how to read maps. So he took their map, right? And they were digging like 3 feet to the right. So, and this all really happened. He was studying for like 7 years, right? He was waiting for somebody to like sell their like claim or stake, whatever it's called. So these guys end up selling it to him, and he knew how to read it. Dude, he found one of the biggest gold deposits in American history. 3 feet from where the other guys were building. I mean, from the other guys were digging, and they gave up. One of the biggest gold deposits in American history. This guy found it.
Wow,
3 feet from gold.
3 feet from gold.
But it just shows you to never give up.
All right, you've given me over a half dozen books. I'll stop being greedy there. That was good because definitely a couple of these are not on my shelf, and I'm still in the United States for a couple more weeks. So Barnes and Noble, here I come, right?
Oh, I love it. I love Barnes and Noble. Oh, and one I just picked up. I haven't read it yet, but Awaken the Giant by Tony Robbins. I'm
Yes.
gonna read that. And yeah, just I've also started picking up like stoic books, like stoicism.
What's the guy's name? Ryan Holiday.
I've heard of him. Yeah, I've never read anything by him, but I've definitely heard of him.
Ego is the Enemy. That's a good book.
Mhm.
It basically get out of your own way, right? Don't let yourself hold
Mhm.
yourself up. Yeah, Waking the
So that's
Giant.
what it is most of the time. Especially like how many people I talk to in this space. Most of the time, it's like people just sitting in their own way. Like, you know, I hear people all the time like, "Yeah, I'm going to make 500 calls a week." It's like, dude, no, you're not. Like, I don't make 500 calls a week. I just have a time block, and from that time, I try to be as productive as possible on making calls. I don't say I'm going to make 500 calls a week. It just works for me because I know like between 2 to 7, I'm making calls, and sometimes I'll have days where like 12 to 2, I'm just calling attorneys or calling agents asking if they have pocket listings. So like don't try to overdo it. Try to hey, I'm going to do so many. Like no, take those little baby steps. A lot of us like to overdo it. No, just even if you're only 2 3 hours a day on the business, it's going to be consistent. Don't say, "Hey, I'm going to work 8 hours on the business," and not do it.
No, your approach to that is spot on. Instead of saying I'm going to make 500 calls, your mindset is I blocked off my time from 2 to 7 or whatever it is. If you make that commitment, that's like I'm going to show up at the gym between 6 and 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. What you do in that time, you're at the gym. So you've blocked off that time. You may not make 500 calls, but you're in your zone. You're right where you're supposed to be. Beautiful.
Because I mean, eventually you're going to be at the gym and you're going to sit there and start working out instead of sitting there staring around, right? So it's the same thing. If I go to my office from this time to this time, I already know how I am. As soon as I'm in the office, I already got my phone on the pink purple mode, do not disturb. So I'm just making calls. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, learn how to set yourself up as well. Don't 2 to 7 and then start scrolling on TikTok. Like no, or sending emails. Like that's one thing I try to do. Stop too. Like from that time to that time, I'm solely focused on prospect. I'm not trying to send emails to anyone. I'm not, unless I have to, right? But like I try to refrain from that because then I'll sit there for an hour sending emails when it's supposed to be my prospecting time.
Yeah. And that's having a routine. It's being disciplined. And, I do the same thing. I mean, believe it or not, I keep a timesheet and I keep a time card because it helps me to stay on my routine, right? If typically I'm a half hour on a project and I see myself going to 45 minutes, I go, okay, let's wrap this up. Chop, chop. Let's get it done, right? And I hold myself accountable to that. I mean, I could stroll in here at 10 o'clock if I wanted to, but that's not how I run this ship. I want to be here and I love what I do. So um what's next for you and why not get started today?
So what's next on my goal list? I'm going to start building my portfolio. I'm going to, I have a certain number I'm going to reach for passive income. Like if I can make monthly, I'll be happy. So I'm starting to work on, bringing deals to people where I could, you know, just get equity as opposed to, the wholesale fee. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna stop wholesaling, but a few of the deals I'm gonna, see if I can value add and hold for myself or, have someone like partner with me in that aspect. But yeah, that's the next thing I'm going to, start looking forward to owning units and also doing real estate syndications.
Cam, from what I've heard you say and you being on the bus here for 2.5 years, I don't think it's going to take you that long. Have you put a time limit on it or any type of time frame
Oh yeah, so I have my numbers down to a T. So, I 5 years. I need between 5 to 7 million in real estate, generating between 7 and 10%, because I want between, I was gonna say between 10 to 20 grand a month passively.
There it is. You've got your time, you've got your number, you've got the target of what it is to get there. So now it's just reverse engineering it to what do I need to do today? What do I need to do this time of the day today? Break up the day. So you're always on track moving forward to that goal. You're going to nail it. Impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. I
So
mean, I do also have help. Like a lot of, me investing in myself was a big part of it. Like I tell you guys, everybody who's I'm speaking to right now, you guys have to invest in your education as well. Like, yeah, it's fun doing YouTube and all that fun stuff, but you need a mentor. You need a community. Like I'm saying, reach out to Brian. Like I know Brian has no problem educating people, but don't waste his time. I'm just going to tell you like that because I don't want my time wasted. Bring some sort of value. Bring some sort of like, hey, Brian, I have this deal at 123 Main Street. Do you think we can go over this? Brian has no problem helping you walk through the deal as long as it makes sense. I will say the same thing for myself. And, I'm super happy to talk to newer wholesalers, but it's super hard when, you're giving wholesaler 2 weeks worth of advice and they give up.
hmm.
you know, that is very discouraging. So, if I do give people advice, I try to, say like, hey, bring some sort of value first.
Well, I appreciate your kind comments about me. I do. I'm humbled because yeah, I love to talk about real estate. That's one of the reasons I do the show. So here's the curveball. This was not on your list of questions, and I always enjoy asking this one because I get some of the juiciest answers.
Mhm.
What's the question I should have asked you today that I didn't?
Hmm.
And this can be anything.
I mean, I would say like, um, if you couldn't fail at anything in real estate, what would you do if it could guarantee that you wouldn't fail?
That is an awesome
Like
question.
if you could do something and you couldn't fail at it in real estate, what would you do?
Cam, that is a fantastic question. Hey, Cam, if you could do anything in real estate and you knew you wouldn't fail, what would you do?
Um, I would make those $100 million offers. No, but I
Okay.
mean, yeah, I would definitely make more offers. More offers. The
Well,
more offers, the more deals.
Cam, I'm gonna give you a little um how do I say this? Little spoiler alert here. You just threw it out into the universe that you're going to be making $100 million deals. Not only
I
did you say
will one.
that, but it's recorded.
Yes. And the crazy part is, and Nick taught me this as well. When you write things down, you have a higher chance of them happening. I was looking at some of the things he had me write down, and I would just like, do little goals towards it or little, things to get towards that goal. And I started looking back and I'm like, hold on. Even like my I have this big whiteboard at my house. And like there was a point where I didn't touch it for like 3 months. And I said to myself, like, oh, I want 3 deals. I want to talk to 20 attorneys and I want to talk to like 20 agents and I want to close like certain amount of deals. All these things happen and I'm looking at it and I'm like, hold on, like these are really happening. I even show my girl, I'm like, babe, look. She's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, this is actually happening. That's the scary part. When you start doing things and they're starting to actually happen. Like it's different when you're like, oh, I got this goal, I got that goal, until they actually start happening. And you're like, oh snap. Like there's been a few times where I was like freaked out. Like, this is really happening. Like
So
when I really got that Danvers deal and it went through, when I actually got the money and I was like, hold on. Like it was when I got my first wholesale, I just could not believe it. Like that's why I had the check just for, a week and a half because I was like, this is real. Like I put my mind to something and I did it.
Yeah. Um, I got goosebumps when you said all that because I see it happen in my own world. You imagine the thing. I journal every day, journal like every day. And I write down those things and that vision of, yeah, what is it? I think it's like every 2 or 3 weeks, I go back into my journal and I write the exact same thing just to keep me on track. It's like I continue to become the person worthy of health, wealth, abundance. And then there's the shopping list. Because looking at that whiteboard, you said, okay, I got a little scared. And that's that moment, right? Where scared, it's either fight or flight, right? It's like, okay, I'm either scared and I'm going to retreat, or like scared and it's like, whoa, this works. And now I'm going to run faster. So embrace that part of it. That's cool.
Lean into it, right?
Yeah, lean into it. Exactly. Lean hard. Yeah. This has
That's my
been
lesson.
fun.
Yeah, this is fun. I like. I really, but see why I love this space. I love meeting people like you. I love learning. I love the energy that comes behind it. Like, and yes, it is the real estate deals. It is the money. Yes, I love that. But like these also things that keep me going when I get to speak to people like you and like understand like you just have to put your mind to it and keep going. So another thing, I started with three people. It was me, it was my friend Ike, and my friend Isaiah. It was three of us. Okay. I quit and Isaiah quit. Isaiah just got his license like a month ago, and now he's back into it because he sees what I'm doing. But I started with three people, and I just was the one who kept going. You know what I mean? Like, not like started with three people, but like I just would like we would go door knocking together. We would cold call in a room together. It was just three of us. Like when I first got and then yeah, man, it's just crazy. Now I see Isaiah, and he's like, damn, I wish I never quit.
The gap in the gain.
The gap in the game.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah,
See,
and
now he's looking at you as his gap, and you're standing there saying, what's next? $100 million offers.
yes, I'm actually like, you know, like I had a deal in Stoughton just fall in my lap. Like an agent called me. It was like, "Oh, I'm done with probate. Can you find an end buyer?" Literally, just from talking to people all the time, an agent called me like a couple days before and asked me if I had anything in Staunton. And then I called her back, was like, "Oh, look what I found." She's like, "Cam, I would literally take that today. I'll probably make 15 grand off it, just quick wholesale. Just it fell in my lap just from constantly talking to people, being consistent, so you have to talk to people every day.
Cam, in central New England, you are going to be the Crest toothpaste of probate.
Yes.
That's it.
I'm
I mean,
shooting for the whole Massachusetts. I want Massachusetts to be the probate guy. Like they need a probate situation. They need to liquidate it in the state. They need an attorney. They come to me because I have an abundance of attorneys. I got you to have my back if I need to liquidate. So it's like, the,
well,
the more the merrier.
you said the deal fell on your lap. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you earned that deal because you did all those pink slip notices, because you made those calls, because you blocked your time, because you dedicated, because you burned the boats, because you did all these things. That's why
Yep.
it quote unquote fell on your lap, because you earned it.
And it's true. And you
Perfect.
actually skipped the portion. Like there's a point I go to senior centers for the probate. I go to assisted living centers, but also to tell them like, hey, I'm a mobile notary. Sometimes I know you guys are just unable to, move or go to the attorney's office. I'm here,
That's
and
a
that gets me in front of more attorneys.
that's a niche. I'd never heard of
Yeah.
that service, a mobile notary, because in me doing half the stuff I have to do. Most of the time I got to jump on a plane to come back here to get something notarized or an apostille or some crazy thing.
Nope. Now you got me. Hey, Cam, I need you to notarize those documents. That's it. And I have an attorney on call. So, I just try to be as valuable as possible because, I mean, I can care less about the notary work. I just want to be able to offer more services to the attorney,
Right.
So as long as I'm in the attorney's face more, right? Perfect example. There's the attorney that gave me the deal in Andover that I just closed on. He asked me like, "Hey Cam, I need something notarized." And granted, it was far. It was when I went and seen you at the meetup that day in Worcester.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was in Millbury or something. I can't remember this very second. But I went there, right? Had it notarized, and he's like, "Oh, well, if she can't pay for the pre-foreclosure or the foreclosure, he's like, I'm gonna call you, and you can, buy the house." And I'm just notarizing, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, cool." Like. So, yeah, it just helps me stay in front of the probate and estate planning attorneys. That's all.
Beautiful. So here we are. We've got viewers. People are going to see this show. If they want to reach out to you, Fundamental Estate Services, how would you like our viewers on the show today to reach out to you? How should they find you?
Well, you can reach out to my website, www.myprobateservice.com. There's a bunch of material up there if you guys are looking for probate, see the things I've done, add yourself to the newsletter, all that fun stuff. Or maybe you can reach out to me directly at my phone number, 774-253-4277. Or just maybe my Facebook, Cameron Adesanya, Cam, Camadesanya at facebook.com, or on Facebook, I should say. And yeah, just I'm here if you want to connect. We offer a free hour consultation, for probate. If you do need an attorney, I can, partner you with a litigator, an administration attorney. We do have the preventative with the estate planners, so like I said, we handle both preventative and reactive. I like to tell people to prevent it so you don't have to react to it. But if you do have to react to it, we can come up with a game plan. I work with a lot of families that are out of state. So sometimes, the decedent or the dead person is in Massachusetts and, the family lives in like Maryland or something. We facilitate, handle the estate and, just kind of work from there, just so you don't have to fly back and forth. And, I had one client just send me the keys and I just dealt with the estate while, she just was able to kind of grieve, sometimes you just need somebody to just say, "Hey, Kim, I don't want to deal with it. Me and my family need to grieve. Just let me know what you need to do or what needs to be done." And I just give them routine updates and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, one-stop shop for probate, brother.
You really brought it. I really enjoyed this conversation. I got about 7-8 pages of notes here. I learned a lot. I really want to thank you for sparing your time to be here and share what I think is a really important message. Thank you, Cam. Any last words for our
Thank you for having me.
Any last words before we cut you loose?
Well, first and foremost, real estate has made over, I think, 90% of the millionaires. So I implore people to educate yourself, get out there. And if you are going to get into the real estate space, get yourself a living trust, protect yourself, cover your own butt, and have fun with it. I love it. Brian loves it. That's why we're in this space, right? And educate yourself, like I said.
Ladies and gentlemen, my real estate peeps, real estate rock stars and entrepreneurs, I want to thank you again for joining us with our guest, Cameron Adesanya. Cameron, thank you again for being with us. And all my real estate peeps, this is Brian Lucier from the Why Not Real Estate Podcast signing off, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.